אוקיי, בשם השם נעשה ונצליח, שיעור תורה. אדוני שפתי תפתח ופי יגיד תהילתך. This week we just finished all the holidays. We obviously we had a big break, everybody's getting back to real life, but at the same time we also have something that it's not necessarily a celebration, but it's something that we do every day. It's part of the Moed, which is preparation. You have Pesach, you have the OMER, and then you have Shavuot. The OMER is 49 days, and every day you have to count one of the days. It's a big mitzvah to do it, and there's a couple of reasons of why we do it. One reason is that there's 49 days difference from the end of Pesach till Shavuot. So that was the time difference from when we left Egypt until we got the Torah. So we went to Mount Sinai, we got the Torah, so on Shavuot is when we got the Torah, and that's what we celebrate because that's in essence when we became Jews. Before that we were called the Hebrews, Ha'ivrim, or the Israelites, but we weren't called the Jews until after we got the Torah. So during this time that we were in the, we crossed the Sea of Reeds, we went through the desert. Am Yisrael had many complaints for Moses and against God, between having issues with faith, which is very similar to the issues that people have today. Most issues that people have today are people that do believe, or at least they're trying to, is issues of faith. And faith is a very, very difficult thing to have, during rough times, during tough times, especially when you don't work on it every day. Faith is not something that comes naturally to someone. It's very easy for someone to say that I have emunah in Hashem when things are good. It's very easy to say that, someone's making money, someone has a good relationship, kids are growing up good, everything is great. Very easy to say that you have emunah in Hashem during good times. The real test of emunah is during difficult times. And that's the problem that most people have, and that's really the test. It's no big deal to say that everything is that you have full emunah in Hashem if everything is great. It's a big deal to say that you have emunah in Hashem when things are not good. Are you still going to keep the faith? Are you still going to go and pray every day 3 times a day? Are you still going to do tefillin? Are you still going to eat kosher? Are you still going to not work on Shabbat, even though there's a potential for a very big deal on Shabbat, and you don't know if there's any other way for you to pay the rent or the mortgage without having that deal? That's when you know that there's a test of emunah. And that's when you know that Hashem is specifically testing you to see if you think that what you're doing is within your own powers and your own hands, or it's in His hands. And the problem today is that most people fail the test, not because they want to fail the test, but because of a lack of knowledge and a lack of emunah muscles. Meaning that if you work on your emunah on a regular basis, then obviously over time, it's when the time comes for you to be tested, you'll be prepared. Just like if someone trains every day for war, and little by little in the army they get better and better and better, and eventually when there's the real war, they're ready for the war. But someone that's just sitting in the back, and hiding from it, maybe he's only training once a week, and then eventually the war comes. It's usually that person that gets hurt the most. It's usually that person that runs away from battle. And that's actually why David HaMelech used to tell all of his soldiers before they went to war that if anyone had any fear, they weren't allowed to go to battle. Even if they had fear of the enemy, not allowed to go to battle. They're saying, why? It's not that he's worried about that particular person having fear. In today's age, people would say, no, do like what any football coach would do. Just encourage the guy and tell him, listen, don't worry, everything's going to be fine. Play hard. And that's logic would tell us that. But David HaMelech knew something a little bit different. David HaMelech knew that this is not a game. And he knew that if that soldier has 1% less emunah than he needs to, it's not just his life that he's risking everybody else's life. Because one soldier getting hurt leads to other soldiers getting hurt, and so on. So having emunah is something that's very critical for us to have on a daily basis, and the way you develop it on a daily basis is by listening to Shiur Torah, by praying, and really getting to a point where you're praying with full kavanah. There's actually a story that I heard about the previous generation. Something really amazing. I mean, it's mamash alvai aleinu. It's just really, I wish for something like that to happen to us on a regular basis. There was one time, there was this one righteous guy who was telling a story about his grandfather, and he says, my grandfather, when he was alive, we would have to change his siddur every 3 months. 3 months. What are you changing the siddur? What? Siddur gets ripped every 3 months. What's wrong with the siddur every 3 months? He goes, no, you don't understand. Every 3 months, all of us, me and my brothers, all of the kids would have to change the siddur every 3 months, because after 3 months, there were so many tears on that siddur from every one of his tefillot that it wasn't even readable anymore. So imagine the type of prayer. This is just the previous generation. This is not 500 years ago. This is, let's say, in the last 100 years. This is someone that every time he's praying with full kavanah, with full emunah, and he really believes that Hashem is really listening to him 100%, to the point where he's confronting him with an open heart. Imagine if one of our prayers, not every day, one of our prayers per week was just like that one guy, where he had it three times a day. Imagine that. We're not so far off of it if we try. So when we're talking about the OMER, you have the issue. The first thing is that you're waiting to receive the Torah. You're waiting to receive the Torah. To receive the Torah, we had to be completely pure. As we said in the previous weeks, when we were in Egypt, Hashem took us out of Egypt. In the last minute, pretty much, if it was one more sin, if we committed one more sin, we would have reached the level of 50 of tum'ah, of impurity, and we were at that point unrecoverable. Meaning that Hashem would have had to destroy the world, because the purpose of the world is the Jews receiving the Torah. So if the Jews can no longer receive the Torah because their level of tum'ah, their level of impurity is too extreme, it's unsalvageable, then Hashem would have had to destroy the world. Obviously, Hashem knows the future, knows the past, knows the present, knows exactly when the last minute is, and He took us out right at the right time. And He showed us a lot of miracles and a lot of amazing things that we went through until we got to Mount Sinai. But still, this is not something that happens overnight. You don't just go from being impure to being pure. You don't go from being a Rasha to being a Tzaddik overnight. And this is also something that we have to realize for ourselves. In order for us to do tshuva, it's a work in progress. It's never something that you finish overnight. It's never something that you are, one day you're not keeping anything, and the next day you're 100% righteous. A lot of people try to go 100% right away, which is not necessarily the best thing to do if you don't know what you're doing. Meaning that if you already had around that being religious, and you already kept all the mitzvot, and something happened, you fell off to the Yetzer Hara, and you fell off and you stopped keeping mitzvot for a certain amount of time, then yes, that person needs to get back in a lot stronger into the religion than someone who has never done it in their life. He can, if that guy was completely religious 100%, and he fell off for a few weeks, a few months, maybe even a few years, he can't just start off by saying, okay, you know what, I'm just going to eat kosher once a week, or I'm going to eat kosher only, but I'm not going to keep anything else. He has to start a little stronger with his tshuva to show that he's sincere. And for himself also, because again, it's there's just so much help that you're going to get from Shamayim when Hashem knows that you know, and you're still going against him. On the other hand, someone who doesn't know anything, who's relatively new to the religion, even if they've been Jewish their whole life, doesn't necessarily mean they know much. If they never kept anything, and now they decide that, you know what, I'm going to start keeping Shabbat, or I'm going to start keeping kosher. They don't have to necessarily worry about what they're going to do next week or what they're going to have to keep next month, whether it's tarat mishpacha or keeping the modesty and all of the other things that you have that come with Judaism. That can come with time, where little by little you're adding things to you. A Jew is technically supposed to progress in his tshuva every day, meaning that even if you're religious from birth, technically you're supposed to do tshuva every day. Every day you're supposed to do tshuva. Why? Because there's no such thing as a tzaddik that has never sinned. Everyone sins. Obviously, everyone in their own levels. The sin of a giant rabbi is very different than a sin that we commit. For them, a sin is, let's say, one thought that wasn't 100% Torah, but it was just thinking about their groceries. For us, obviously, it's a completely different thought. So again, everyone in their own level, but you're supposed to progress every day. The reason why you're supposed to progress every day is the same thing like when you have, for example, a business. If someone has a business, and that business obviously needs to pay the bills. Now, if you're the type of business, whether it's retail, wholesale, it doesn't really make a difference, that acts like you with tshuva. Where it's like, acts like people, where they say, 1 week I'm going to go 100%. Pesach week, I'm going to keep this, I'm going to keep that, I'm going to keep the matzot, I'm going to keep all the kosher laws, I'm going to clean the house extra, I'm going to do everything possible. And then 3 days after Pesach, okay, I'm going on vacation to Cancun and lay on the beach. Now, if that was your business, then imagine a business where everyone says, okay, you know what, we're going to work hard, everyone works overtime, they come in, they work, all the customers, everything, they set up all the appointments, they set up they buy all the equipment, all the inventory, every day they're preparing for a big sale. And then the next week, nobody shows up. None of the employees show up, not even the guy that has the key to open the door. The customers are still going to wait outside because you prepared them the week before. But you're going to have nobody in the store, and obviously it's going to look very bad. You could pretty much lose the balance of everything that you worked on before. So religion is, in Judaism, is not supposed to be something that you look at as a burden. It's supposed to be something that's part of your life, but you have to find a way to enjoy it. To enjoy it, you have to learn a little bit more about it. To learn more about it, you have to make it as part of your day-to-day life. It can't just be purely about prayers. It can't just be purely about any one particular thing. You have to add different parts and make it part of a different day. That's why Hashem said, at the end of every lecture, every shiur, they say, Rabbi Hanina said that Hashem wanted to give us a reward by giving us a lot of opportunities to make mitzvot, in so many words. Why to make so many mitzvot? Because He gave us the ability to not only, obviously, have a lot of opportunities to win, a lot of opportunities to get reward. Every mitzvah that you do, you get a huge reward. But aside from that, He gave us a structure for our day to keep us busy enough to stay away from trouble. From the minute that you wake up to the minute you go to sleep, you have something to do that involves Hashem. In the morning, you say Birkot HaShachar. You say the morning blessing. Thank you, Hashem, for bringing my soul back. Thank you for not making me poor. Thank you for not making me this. Thank you for all these different things that we have. Giving me food, bringing my neshama back. All these different things that you have in a siddur, plus certain things that you can add. But the key is that right away in the morning, you have the first thing, you have to wash your hands and do everything to already remind yourself that there is a boss in Shemayim. After that, you go and you do your tefillin. After that, you're going to eat something. So before you eat something, you remind yourself, okay, this is an apple, this is a donut, whatever you're going to eat. You do the blessing on that. After that, you go to your job, and shortly after you want to eat something again, you have your lunch, or you have to go to the bathroom, or anything that you do, there's always going to be some type of blessing involved. So much so to the point where Chazal tells us that if someone benefits in this world in any way without a blessing, should consider it as if he stole from Hashem. Meaning there's no such thing as you benefiting in this world, enjoying yourself in this world, without there being a blessing for what you're enjoying. There should not be anything like that. There should not be in our mind anything like that where this is benefit that doesn't involve Hashem. Because everything that we do has to come from Hashem. And what's the reward? There was one time a righteous person, but it was very poor, that went to the Chafetz Chaim, one of the big sages, and he said to him, listen, I'm having trouble with Parnassah, but I know that Hashem watches us. So I was wondering if you could do some extra prayers for me, and say maybe if Hashem could take my schut for doing tefillin every day, maybe he could take the schut of the tefillin for this week, and give me parnassah, give me enough parnassah to, instead of that schut, instead of paying me in the olam haba, pay me in this world so I can at least get enough parnassah to eat. So the Chafetz Chaim says, I'm going to answer you with a story. What's the story? Chafetz Chaim says, one time there was a man, and he was a very big saver. And every day he would collect these coins, and he would hide these coins, and eventually he got to a point where after all these years, he collected a few gold Napoleon coins. So he had a handful of them. And he said, okay, this is my retirement money. And he took these coins, and he put them on top of his dresser. So of course the guy has kids. The kids play around, and one day one of his kids plays around. He starts climbing the dresser. He sees on top of it. He feels something. There's a coin over there. He takes one of the coins, gets really, really excited about it, and runs to the store. So he tells the store clerk, how much candy can I buy with this one? It's a gold coin. This is enough. Each one of these gold coins is like a year salary for this store owner. And the store owner says, as much as you want. Take whatever you want. The kid gets really excited, takes a bunch of candy, and runs back home. So his family sees all this candy. Where'd you get all this candy? He goes, I got it from the store. Okay, you got it from the store, but how'd you get it from the store? Because I bought it. Obviously, everybody got suspicious. What do you mean you bought it? He goes, I bought it. I had some money. I'm like, where'd you get this money? He goes, I had it in the dresser. I found it. Immediately, the father almost had a heart attack. He's thinking, immediately, I have to go check my coins. He goes, checks his coins. He realizes that one of the coins that he saved over the last 30 years is missing. Runs to the store. Tells the clerk, you liar, you cheater. You took the coins, you cheated my little boy. He's a little boy. How could you take advantage of him? You know who he is. You know who I am. It's not like you don't know. How could you do this? And of course, the guy's right. He's right. Listen, the guy knows who his father is. He's not supposed to take a gold coin that's a year's salary for a few pieces of candy. It's not fair. So the Chafetz Chaim tells the guy that came to him to give him to try to ask him for help with the tefillin. He says, see, it's the same thing with you. Right now you're asking me to take your gold coin that's going to give you enough for countless years worth of reward in the olam haba, and you're asking me to tell Hashem to give you a lollipop for it, just so you have some parnassah for this month. I'm not a thief, he tells him, and I can't be part of something like that. So no, I can't help you. So the man understood, not only is that the right answer, but the next time he did tefillin, he valued it much, much more. And Baruch Hashem, he got parnassah in another way. So for us, it's very, very important to know that each one of our mitzvot is going to be a reward. Sometimes the reward is going to have a partial benefit in this world, but the vast majority of the reward that we have is in the next world. It's very difficult for people, especially if you're not going to learn Torah on a daily basis, to believe in the next world. It is nearly impossible to believe in the next world, in Olam Haba, without learning Torah on a daily basis. I don't mean believe in the next world where you say, oh, okay, everybody goes to heaven and everything's going to be great one day in some theoretical dreamland that people create in their mind. I mean literally believe in a way where you know that this life is just a hallway out of the real life that's waiting for us. Where your entire life in this world is just a preparation for that life. Your life here is going to take its course. You're going to have ups, you're going to have downs, you're going to have good times, you're going to have tough times. But you're always thinking with your mind on the goal, on the prize, which is Olam Haba. I am preparing everything for Olam Haba. It's like the guy that was saving all the coins all those years. He wasn't saving all those coins so he could look at them. He was saving all those coins for the days of one day he can't work anymore. He's retired. He's not able to work anymore. He's saving all those coins that one day he's going to be able to use those coins. We have to have that same mindset about Olam Haba. All the mitzvot that we do right now, all of the good deeds that we do right now, all of the chesed that we do right now, all of the Torah that we learn right now, all of that is supposed to be put in our mind as preparation for Olam Haba. If someone doesn't learn Torah, it is very difficult to believe in this world. And the reason why is because when you're living your whole life in this world, which means that you're involved in business all day, family, material, and everything else, then that means your life is generally consumed with this world, things of this world, and you're consumed with material. Olam Haba has nothing material. It's all spiritual. So it becomes very difficult to connect to this spiritual world because you have nothing in common with this world. You're always involved in material. You're always involved in making money, going to a party, going on vacation, buying this, buying that. All of it is wonderful. You can do all of those things. No one's saying that you're not allowed to enjoy your life. But if your life is consumed with material, then it gets to a point where it becomes impossible to connect to this next world. If it becomes impossible to connect to this next world, then it becomes impossible to even think about it when you're doing mitzvot. If it's impossible to think about it when you're doing mitzvot, then you start losing the meaning of why am I going to do a mitzvah? Why would I do a blessing? For what? What? So Hashem makes it any tastier if I drink it? No, it has nothing to do with that. Why am I going to do any mitzvah? What? So Hashem says, oh, good job. You start forgetting, why am I doing all of this stuff? Which means that the minute the Yetzer Hara shows his face, you become very vulnerable, and you could easily fall off, and like it happens unfortunately a lot of times, you fall off a cliff. When people fall, they don't fall like when you were a little kid, you just slip on the ground, you have a little scab. Unfortunately, when it comes to religion, if people that are not learning, if they fall off, sometimes difficult to get them back up. They fall off, they start going to such a far, far away land because the initial fall sometimes feels like freedom. The Yetzer Hara lies to you and gives you the feeling of freedom. So you stopped feeling, so you used to pray every day, you pray once, twice, 3 times a day, and you used to learn, an hour a day, or 2 hours a day, or 15 minutes a day, and you used to do blessing every time you go to the bathroom, and you do blessing every time you eat, and you do all of these things, it becomes structure, just like Hashem meant it for it to be. And then one day you stopped. Oh, I didn't keep Shabbat. Oh, I didn't keep kosher today. Oh, all of a sudden, it's like, I didn't keep Shabbat, but you know what, I went to the beach. Oh, I didn't keep kosher. Hashem didn't kill me. I ate chazir, and Hashem didn't kill me. All of a sudden, you start feeling this freedom. Wow, great. It gives you this initial feeling where it's like you're doing something good. You're not keeping any mitzvah anymore, and I'm released from this world. That's why, unfortunately, there's some movies, some interviews online you can see of these people that used to be very, very religious, and now are completely anti-religion. You go from black and white and full uniform, and now an anti-religion. And initially, when they first do it, you see them with a smile. It's so great. I'm free in this world. I don't need to go to shul. I don't need to do this. I don't need to do that. But then the Yetzer Hara says, okay, now you went from a candidate to a part-time employee. Now you like it so much, so you're a full-time employee. Okay, that's it. Now you're my slave. Now you can't leave. And at that point, the neshama starts feeling it, and misery sets in. The emptiness, the hole is created, and it's impossible to fix it without more pain. Why? Because the pain is required to peel off all of the sitra achra that you added to your body, all of the sins that you added to your body, all of the anti-attitude, anti-Torah attitude that you had in your body. It's going to take some effort to peel all of that off. So that illusion that we had, that stopping to do mitzvot is going to be good for us, is just the Yetzer Hara's genius illusion that to fool us into doing it. So now, during these 49 days, we were preparing for the Torah. To prepare for the Torah, we have to purify ourselves. We have to get better. We have to, whatever we are today, tomorrow we must be better. If we're doing 50 mitzvot today, tomorrow we have to find a way to do more than 50. 51, 55, 60, 100, as many as we can. Every day we're supposed to purify ourselves and become better than we are today. Why? Because we have a monumental event happening just a few weeks from now. This monumental event is the purpose of the world. It's not just another day. It's not just a nice holiday. It's not just no big deal. It's a big deal. The reason why we're here, not just in this shiur, but in this world, is for this particular day, because we got the Torah. The reason why Hashem took us out of Egypt is for this Torah. So this is a big deal. So for us to be pure enough to get this Torah, we have to improve. And this is part of the reason why you'll see sometimes people don't shave, don't get haircuts, study more Torah than usual, a little bit more focused on spiritual than material, because that's how you get yourself more focused. The material world is always going to be there. You don't have to worry about it. It's not going away. That is the substance of this world. So for us to fight the Yetzer Hara right now during this time is very critical, because that's the time we have a chance to raise ourselves higher than normal. Why raise ourselves higher than normal? Because right now, just like Am Yisrael was at the 49th level of Tumah. Then they obviously started improving. By the time they got the Torah, they were at the highest level we ever were in history. So you're talking about a significant change, the most significant change in the shortest amount of time in history. If they were able to do it, then obviously that is within Hashem's nature to allow us to do it. So if we want to raise ourselves, right now is the time. If we're studying only 15 minutes a day of Torah, right now, we should be able to push ourselves for 30 minutes. If we're studying only 5 minutes, then we should push ourselves for 15 minutes. If we're doing an hour, then try to do an hour and a half. If we're doing one tefillah a day, then now it's time to do 2 or 3 tefillot. And so on and so forth. Right now is the time to push ourselves, because right now we're going to get extra spiritual help from Hashem. But if we don't take advantage of opportunities like this, then we're missing out on an opportunity that could raise us in an extraordinary level. That's something that we always thought about. Oh, one day I want to be that guy. Right now is the time to be that guy. Right now is a chance to be that guy. Right now is a chance to improve ourselves. The second reason why we don't shave and also count the OMER, count the 49 days, is because of a very, very well-known story I'm sure you guys have heard, is that during this time, actually the first 32 days of the OMER, is when Rabbi Akiva's 24,000 students died. Now, Rabbi Akiva, obviously we know, is not only one of the most important Jews in history, but most likely one of the top, at least 10, if not 3 most important people that ever lived. Not just because of the Torah that he learned, but because he is the essence of what a Jew is. Meaning that he is the tshuva story. He's the model tshuva story. He's the model tshuva story. Listen, you have many Jews that were giant tzaddikim. They were born righteous, in good families, and they continued building on top of it. You have some people that tshuva at some point in their life. They were 15, 20 years old. They saw a movie, they read a book, they heard a story, they did tshuva. Rabbi Akiva was something different. Rabbi Akiva was completely anti-religion. His parents were converts, so it's not like he came into a family that was full of Torah or anything like that. He actually says that when he used to see, before he did tshuva, when he used to see religious people, he would think about biting them like a mule. Why like a mule? Usually when you bite someone, you want to bite them like a dog, not a mule. He says, yes, but a dog, when it bites, it just eats the flesh, just, hurts the flesh. But when a mule bites, it crushes the bone and disintegrates the bone. There's no recovery from it. He goes, that's how much I hated the religious people, the religious Jews. So then Rachel, which was the daughter of Kalba Savua, which was one of the 3 richest men in all of Israel. These 3 people actually had enough money to feed the entire nation for 3 years during the war. That's how much money they had. So Rachel saw Rabbi Akiva, which wasn't Rabbi Akiva at the time, saw Akiva cleaning the horses. And she saw that he had some nice midot. She saw that he had some good character traits about him. And she decided, this is the man I'm going to marry. Now think about it. She's a young girl. She's not old. He's 40 years old, divorced with a kid. And not only that, completely knows nothing about religion. She comes from a religious home. So now, she tells him, listen, I'm willing to marry you if you're willing to study Torah. Only study Torah. No working, just study Torah. So Akiva is like, oh, of course, yeah, why not? I'll agree to this, why not? He's thinking theoretically, yeah, once I get married, it's fine, but what's the big deal of studying Torah? Problem is, he didn't know how to read or write. He was illiterate also. So 40 years old, divorced, kid, illiterate. Obviously, her father wasn't too happy, to the point where he disowned her. He said, listen, if you're going to be with this man, you're not going to get $1 from me. You're not going to get any money from me. You're going to live off of nothing. So they immediately became poor the day they got married. No support, no help, no family, no nothing. So Rachel tells Rabbi Akiva, okay, listen, you have to go learn. You have to first learn the alphabet, so you have to go to kindergarten. So he tells her, okay. So he starts, thinking about going to kindergarten, but he starts thinking about the embarrassment. The embarrassment this is going to be. I mean, it's a 40-year-old man going to kindergarten. It's not exactly the ideal situation. So she says to him, okay, listen, you don't want to go to kindergarten to learn the alphabet? Fine. Take a mule, put some sand on it, sand on it, and put a plant. And I want you to water the plant and walk all around town with the plant. And let the plant grow on top of the mule. Well, why would I do this? He goes, oh, do it. Just do it. You don't want to go to kindergarten, so do this at least. He didn't think much of it. And he saw that after, in the beginning, obviously everyone was looking at this strange thing. Someone is watering a plant that's growing on top of a mule. Is that crazy? One day they're looking, 2 days they're looking, 3 days not so much. By 4th day, everybody's used to it. And she tells them, Rachel is very, very wise to think about this. She says, see, same thing's going to be with the school. In the beginning, yes, they're going to think it's strange that a 40-year-old man is learning the alphabet with a bunch of children. So the first day they're going to laugh at you or look at you funny. Second day maybe a little less. Third day a little less. After a week, no one's going to think, they're not going to think anything of it. And he listened. And he continued learning. And little by little started learning Torah. And then after learning Torah, he went away to learn even higher level of Torah. And after 24 years of learning, he first learned for 12 years, came back, overheard his wife saying that if her husband could hear her right now, she didn't know he was behind her or listening to this conversation. If my husband could hear me, I would tell him to go for another 12 years to learn Torah and not come back now. So he turned around without even saying hello and went back to the yeshiva and learned Torah. After 24 years, he came back and he came into Torah with all of his, if you don't mind opening it, he came in town with 24,000 students. Now these students weren't regular students. These are the people that were part of the Gemara. These are the biggest chachamim in history. These people were giants in every way, shape, or form of Torah. Some of them were so significant they were able to bring back the dead. People that, the smartest sages we have in our generation, if you combine all of them, they weren't like one of these students. That's how big these students are. So these students, these Talmidim, made a mistake in their own level. Now a lot of people say that they had lack of kavod, lack of respect for each other. And that's mistranslated a little bit. Well, people think that they didn't like each other, they didn't have respect, like where they disrespected each other. But that's actually incorrect. What it is that it wasn't, obviously these people were sages, these people were giants in Torah. Disrespecting each other is not even part of their day-to-day thoughts. So it's not disrespect like we think disrespect. It's disrespect and lack of love for each other in a sense where they didn't care enough about each other to correct each other. Meaning that if someone said, listen, I'm going to do this mitzvah this particular way, and the other guy knew that he's incorrect, he's making a mistake, it's a minor error, he's supposed to, instead of doing it one way, he's supposed to do it a little bit different. Instead of making the extra effort to show him why and how and he's incorrect and things like that, they didn't do it. And this is unfortunately very similar to the current generation, where you have many rabbis that are saying, listen, telling people to keep Shabbat, telling people to, it's very, very important for them to keep Shabbat, telling people to keep kosher, meat and dairy, telling people that, the critical parts of Judaism are a necessity. They'll listen, I'm sure they'll find out, and if they want to do it, they'll do it. But to push them, to be a little bit annoying, to put a little pressure on people, no, we want to do it in a nice way. We want to show them the nice parts of the Torah, and if they see so many nice things about the Torah, maybe they'll stop driving on Shabbat to shul. Aside from the fact that we see that system does not work at all, there's maybe a 1% or 0.5% success ratio. Once in a blue moon, you're going to find somebody that drove to shul and now stopped driving to shul, but usually it's not as a result of that shul's effort, but as a result of circumstances that happen somewhere else. But aside from that, what they're doing is exactly our generation's level of why Hashem punished those 24,000 students, and for the next 32 days he killed between 700 to 800 of them per day. So imagine you have the biggest sage in the world, and now you have 24,000 of them. And every day the biggest Gdol Ador dies. And there's 700 of them dying every day. By the time you even thought about burying him, the next day you have to bury him, obviously, you have another 700 died. And another 700, another 700, another 700, every day for 32 days. Why? Because we didn't care enough about each other to rebuke each other and fix each other. Ocheach tochiach is one of the things that we learn from the sages, where it's our obligation. It's not a mitzvah, like it's nice to do it. It's our obligation to correct each other, but in a respectful way. So much so that we learn a lot of it in the, some of the things that some of the most important people in history. We know that if they didn't rebuke the nation, if they didn't make people do tshuva, we wouldn't even know who they are. So for example, we go to the top. We go to Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu obviously is the prophet of all prophets, the king, highest human being that we've ever had. Masechet Megillah brings a verse, talks about Moshe Rabbeinu, but before it talks about Moshe Rabbeinu, it talks about Batya. Batya was the daughter of Paro, who converted while Paro was in power, and when she went down to the river, that's when she saw the basket that Moshe Rabbeinu was in, and she raised them. She raised them in the house of Paro. And actually her name, Batya, means daughter of Hashem. Bat means daughter, Ya means Hashem. Hashem gave her that name. So in the it talks about Batya, but then it talks about how Batya had these 3 sons. But the Gemara specifically says that all 3 names are referring to Moshe Rabbeinu. Meaning it's 3 different nicknames that Moshe Rabbeinu had. One of those names is Gedol. Gedol comes from the root of the word in Hebrew, Gadel. Gader is fence. Why fence? Because Moshe Rabbeinu fenced the breaches of Israel, meaning that he corrected the improper behavior of Am Yisrael. All of the improper behavior that they learned in Egypt, he corrected them. He wasn't, Aaron, his brother Aaron, was, they say that he chased peace. He was always a chaser of peace, always constantly trying to make peace between people. Moshe wasn't necessarily looking for peace, he was looking for truth. You made a sin, this is the punishment. You made a mitzvah, this is what it is. It's black and white. Hashem said so, that's it. It's not, no games. Oh, Ilanu, if he was here today. Imagine a person that's speaking to God on a first name basis is getting noticed in those days for rebuking the nation. A nation that saw the words of Hashem and Shamayim. A nation that heard the words of Hashem. A nation that saw the miracles of Hashem on a daily basis for over 40 years. Food coming from Shamayim. This is not normal. Food coming from Shamayim every day. You don't have to work. You don't have to do anything. All you have to do is learn a little bit of Torah. You have food waiting for you. You don't have to take a shower because the cloud that's following you is cleaning your clothes. It's like a washing machine on a regular basis. You're always clean. You don't have to worry about drinking. You don't have to worry about eating. You don't have to worry about going to the bathroom. They said that the man that we had in the desert was a spiritual food. In essence, such a pure food that all of it would be absorbed by our bodies, and we wouldn't have to go to the bathroom. Which they said is what's going to happen when the Mashiach comes, Be'ezrat Hashem, that we're not going to have to go to the bathroom anymore. Again, it doesn't seem like a big deal. But if you think about the blessing of Asher Yatzal, which is the blessing that we do every time we go to the bathroom, you actually think about the words in Asher Yatzal. Baruch Atah Hashem. You know, you're talking about all of the details of how your body works. He made you holes in the right places. He shut off those holes at the right places. If one of those holes shut off when it's not supposed to be shut off, or one of the closings opened when it's not supposed to be opened, we wouldn't be able to live or survive for 1 hour. So when you think about how your body works, just for a second, take a piece of food. You take a carrot, it turns to blood. You take an apple, it turns to blood. You take chicken, it turns to blood. You take ice cream, it turns to blood. You take anything you eat, it turns to blood. Who told the body to turn everything to blood? You take water, it turns to blood. Everything you take, it turns to blood. Some form of it goes to blood. You drink Gatorade, there's part of it goes to blood, turns into blood. The Gatorade, the chicken, the steak, the apple, the candy, the jelly beans, everything turns to blood. Who told them to turn to blood? Somehow all of the stuff turns to blood in a perfect, amazing, miraculous way, and the parts that we don't need leave the body, and also in a perfect, amazing way. And it works regularly. Anytime the body consumes everything we needed, the minute we have that waste is created, and as soon as the body is ready to refill that space, that food comes in. It's time to have the other food or the waste leave the body. It's a very, very symmetrical, amazing system. Everything you need, it turns to blood. And everything you don't need is gone. So you think about this blessing. You say, well, you know what? Going to the bathroom is a pretty big deal. It's a pretty big deal. So Hashem says that in the Torah, when we were in the desert, the man was so amazing, so spiritual, such a high level. Even there's a machloket of what the bracha was. If the blessing was Amotzi lechem min haaretz, that wasn't really a true blessing because it's not from haaretz. So Amotzi lechem min hashamayim is what was the blessing was. That he created the bread from heaven. That's what the blessing was. At least that's what most of the sages agree on. So now, all of it was consumed by our body. We didn't have to have any waste. And this amazing thing that we saw on a daily basis for 40 years was just one of the many miracles. The ocean split, the plagues, the 10 commandments, wars that we won. You know, when they had the war against the Amalekites, the nation of Amalek, we got attacked for no reason, other than Amalek hates us, hates the Jews. And as long as Moshe Rabbeinu had his hands up in the air, we were winning. If Moses' hands got tired, we started losing. But Chazal explains that war, that first war against Amalek, which most people don't know this, was bigger than any other war that ever was or ever will be. Meaning it's bigger than even the war of Gog and Magog that's going to be one day. How so? He said because it wasn't a natural war, it was a spiritual war also. The Amalekites, the nation of Amalek, had a lot of sorcerers, had a lot of wizards and stuff that you see in the movies. That's where they get this stuff from. They get it from the Torah, they don't get it from their brilliant minds. And these wizards knew exactly how to time certain things. So for example, they knew through their own powers that Hashem gave them who is destined to die and who's not destined to die. So they picked all of the soldiers that they knew for sure were not destined to die that day. They took them to battle. So they know, okay, I'm going to take all these soldiers. I know that Hashem decreed this guy is not going to die today. So imagine you have a guy that does do whatever he wants, and you know he's not going to die. On top of it, they knew that the nation of Israel would get weak once the sun moved and started going down. Started moving and started going down. So Moshe Rabbeinu told Yeshua ben Nun, Joshua, he told him, listen, you go select the soldiers. What do you mean you go select? So why are you supposed to select the soldiers? Because you know who's righteous, who's not. Go select the soldiers, go select the righteous ones. Because they have soldiers that are destined not to die. So we have to also have soldiers that are very, very righteous, that can battle. So it's not about power, who's stronger, who's not strong. It's not muscles. It's spiritual strength. On top of that, Moses had to pray to stop the sun in the middle of the war. Stop the sun in its place. Because if the sun would have continued going down, we would have gotten weaker and they would have been able to wipe us out. So, and this is just a small part of the spiritual war that happened during this war. And again, as the Chazal explains us, this is the biggest war that ever was. So this is just, again, one of the many miracles we saw. And even after all the miracles that we saw, after all the amazing things that we saw, there were still people that sinned. There were still people that were going against Hashem. There was still someone that we will read about soon that was the first Mechalel Shabbat. There was still Korach and his team and his people that were followers that tried to go against Moshe Rabbeinu. There were still people that sinned. And Moshe Rabbeinu is remembered not only as the leader, but this specific Gemara says that he's mentioned in another book of the Torah in Chronicles, the book of Chronicles 4:18. He's mentioned as another name. He is given 3 other names, one of them being Gedol, because he had the ability, and he had the inclination, and he had the wisdom to rebuke the nation and correct their behavior. So Moshe Rabbeinu, that showed them all the miracles, still needed to rebuke people, still needed to fix people, because or else they would just fall off too far off the derech. And that's obviously something that he didn't want happening. So the people of the students of Rabbi Akiva made their own mistake and they didn't rebuke each other the way that they were supposed to. And Hashem said, because you know, because you're at that level, obviously he's going to look at them at a different level like he looks at us. And during that time we nearly lost Judaism. Literally all of his students were gone. He had to start over. He had to start with 5 new students. So this is a very, very big ason, very big disaster that happened to the Jewish people. So during these 49 days, we have to try to elevate ourselves, number one, in memory of the students that we lost, to remember not to do what they did, but also you're going to get better. It's our job to help each other. Number 2, to prepare ourselves for the Holy Torah that we're going to get. And number 3, to remember, now that we left Egypt, we have a mission. First mission was to leave Egypt. Okay, we left Egypt. We went through Yam Suf. Now we left Egypt. Now we're on the way to Mount Sinai. Now we have a job. Am Yisrael has a job. Our job is to, in essence, become a nation and help each other out, get closer to Hashem. Hashem built the world with certain nature in it. One of the things that he did is that he created a world that's going to live only 6,000 years. Represented by each day of the week before Shabbat. So you have Sundays the first 1,000, Mondays the second 1,000, Tuesdays the third 1,000, and so on and so forth. Wednesdays the fourth, Thursdays the fifth, Friday is the 6th. Shabbat is the 7,000, but that's already the days after Mashiach. It's already the... So which means that this world that we're in, which is already the year 5775, is now in the last hours before Shabbat comes in. What do we mean? So we're going to have 5,000. That's already Thursday. We finished Thursday, we got into Friday. Friday has 1,000. Right? Out of that 1,000, we already spent over 700, 770. Which means there's only 230 left for the entire Friday to be consumed. Which means that Shabbat is about to come in a spiritual way, which means that in any minute, Mashiach can come. Mashiach's going to come before Shabbat. He's not going to come on Shabbat. Maybe he comes on Shabbat. Either way, we're in the final hours, we're in the final years, we're in the days of Mashiach. Which means that if we don't become a nation that's righteous with Hashem, not our own rules, but Hashem's rules, now, when are we going to do it? We're running out of time. Which means that right now, more than ever, it's our job to make sure that every time we have an opportunity to get someone to keep some mitzvah, whether it's Shabbat or it's kosher or it's anything else, right now is the time to do that extra push. Right now is the time to be a little extra annoying. Right now is the time to be a little extra pushy. Right now is the time to be the one that reminds everyone to constantly do stuff. Because if not now, when? When? That's the thing that we have to start thinking about. And obviously for ourselves, if we're not going to keep the mitzvot, we're not going to keep all of these things that Hashem told us to do, then when? So this 49-day period, which we're already in the 11th one, is our time to elevate ourselves. Elevating yourself works in a few different ways that are beneficial. Number one, it's beneficial in a way that obviously you could get to a higher level, which is something more to build on. The second thing is that in case, chas v'chalila, but in case you fall, but you've gotten to a higher level, you have more of a cushion. You're not going to necessarily lose everything at once. It's just like, for example, when somebody makes money, why do people also, feel more secure when they made more money? Because they figure that, even if I made a few $1 million, even if I lose a few million, I still have some money left. I'm not going to be broke. But if I only made less money, I made a few $1,000s or a few $100,000, and I put all of it on something and it doesn't work out, then I go to zero. It's much easier to lose it. So, again, having that extra cushion is definitely a big advantage. Any questions so far?
No.
Another thing that actually I found very interesting in same Gemara is mentions the book of Job. The book of Job is one of the right there, white one. Book of Job, probably the most, it's part of the Tanakh, obviously. And it's a very difficult story to read, let alone to imagine ourselves in that story. But it's also the definition of emunah. So we have Rabbi Akiva that we just talked about. He is the symbol of tshuva. Why? Because despite all odds, at the age of 40 years old, he not only learned Aleph Bet, he learned Torah, and he got to a point that over the next 24 years, he became Gdol HaDorot. There's no major Gemara that doesn't mention his name. So it's meaning he's telling us to this day, It's never too late. Never too late. You're 40 years old, you're 30 years old, you're 50 years old, doesn't matter. It's never too late to learn Torah and get to a very, very high level. No one needs to think that, hey, listen, I'm already too late, I'm already 65 years old, and what am I going to learn? What can I really do? You don't know. The Torah is given to you by Hashem based on your effort, not learned by you. Meaning you're going to learn it, but what you're actually going to retain is going to be given to you through Hashem. So, Rabbi Akiva is the model story of tshuva, which in essence is the core of this world. Eov, which is Job, is one of the symbols of emunah. Why emunah? Because Job had a difficult test, to say the least. He went from being one of the richest people in the nation, rich like to the point where someone like Bill Gates would be one of his employees. That's how rich he was. 10 kids, money. He did a korban every day for his kids just in case they sinned. He's a righteous person. He wasn't even Jewish because we haven't gotten the Torah yet. But he was a prophet. It's a big deal. It's not just anybody. It's a book in the Torah that's written about him. Obviously. And in less than one day, in a matter of hours, he lost everything. One guy comes in and says, listen, all the cattle you had, dead. Another one says, horses dead, kids dead. One after another comes in, tells him everyone is dead, and I'm here to the last one that survived to tell you the story. His kids died, his money's gone, everything disappeared, and then on top of it, he lost all of his health. This is a test of all tests. Remember when we were talking about before, we were saying, listen, it's very difficult to have true emunah when? In tough times. In good times, it's easy to have emunah. Tough times like this, you lost everything, you had difficult tests. That's a time to have a lot of questions for Shamayim. Yov, the book of Yov has something very interesting in it. It says, "Lo yiga mitzadik enav, ve'et melachim lekiseh, ve'yashivem lanetzach ve'yigbau. Ve'im asurim bazikim, yilchedu mechavlei oni." This verse says, "He will not remove his eyes from the righteous man until he is on the throne with kings. He will sit them there forever. They will become exalted." This first verse, Yov 36:7, is saying that Hashem does not take his eye off the righteous. And the Gemara explains it, that means that a righteous person that does mitzvot, Hashem pays him his reward, not just in the next world, but in this world. So much so that he doesn't let it go until he pays him in full. That even if it takes several generations, even if the benefit of the mitzvah that the person did has to already go to the next generation and the next generation, his descendants will get the reward of a mitzvah that he did. Whether the mitzvah was tefillin, or the mitzvah was Shabbat, or the mitzvah was some type of chesed, anything that the person did, if the mitzvah is obviously exactly like it's supposed to be, Hashem pays the reward to the point where someone can get rewarded forever. And forever means just in Olam Haba and also in this world. How in this world? Where his descendants will get it. So this is good. This is good news. But then the verse continues. ויגד להם פעלם ופשעם כי יתגברו. And if they are shackled in fetters, trapped in ropes of affliction, he thus informs them of their errant deeds and their transgressions, for they have become overpowering. I'll continue reading in English, it's easier, I think, for everyone to understand. He opened their ears to discipline, and said that they should turn back from wrongdoing. If they will listen and serve him, they will finish their days in goodness, and their years in pleasantness. But if they will not listen, they will pass away the sword and expire for lack of knowledge. So there's a few really, really critical things that we just learned from this. We'll explain in a couple of minutes. So first thing we know, if we do mitzvot, Hashem will pay us in full. In this world, in the next world, our children, our children's children, and following forever. But Hashem also tells us that if my reward the reward that He gives us, causes us to become arrogant, causes us to become conceited, causes us to have too much pride, and not be the same righteous person that we were when He gave us the reward. So we were righteous, we did good, we were tzaddikim, we did good things. Tefillot, tefillin, kosher, Shabbat, nidah, all the amazing things were amazing. We're the best, we're doing even above and beyond. Hashem says, you're a tzaddik, I'm going to give you a reward. You're going to have this, you're going to have money, you're going to have good kids, you're going to have Torah, you're going to have amazing things. So all of a sudden somebody says, I'm a full tzaddik, great. And he starts having pride. He starts thinking that he's special. Hashem says, that person, not only is it not good, but I will embarrass that person to the point of bringing poverty on him. Ve'ashpilo. He's going to embarrass that person. He will take him all the way from where they are to nothing. To absolute nothing as a punishment for taking a reward and in essence using it the wrong way. Using the reward that Hashem gave you for mitzvah against Hashem. What's against Hashem? It's something as simple as pride. Someone doesn't think, being pride is such a big deal? Hashem hates pride. Hashem hates someone that thinks that they need so much kavod. Hashem says he cannot be in the same room as someone that is too prideful. So we learned that if we do good, we get rewarded forever. If we do bad, we get a special punishment from Hashem. Specifically says it in the book. This is in the Tanakh. This is not some foreign language or some mystical book. This is Torah. The embarrassment that we get, the poverty that we get, is to teach us a lesson. Until we do tshuva. And he says here, if that person does tshuva, then they will die in a good way. They'll get back, and I'll give them back, and they'll be rewarded, and so on. But if they don't do tshuva, they'll die in misery. And anytime Hashem talks about a life or death, it's not just this world life or death. Life or death is also the next world. Somebody could say, okay, great, you know what? It's very interesting that in the book of Job, you mentioned this, but how do we know this is relevant to our life? How do we know he's talking about us? How do we know? Maybe he's not talking about us. Maybe he's talking about Job. Maybe he's talking about Job. Well, I know something, Bechlad. Who am I, Bechlad, to tell you that he's talking about you, or he's talking about me, or he's talking about you, or anybody? How do we know? Same Gemara, a few pages later, says, Am Yisrael, the Torah mentions that we had 48 prophets. 48 known prophets that are mentioned by name. Nevi'im. And 7 female prophetess. 7 women, 7 men, 48 men, or prophets. Okay, you have the names. The Gemara gives you the names. You have Avraham, Yitzhak, Yaakov, Moses, Aaron. The list goes on, 48 names. Some of them are very, very well known, like Zechariah, Jeremiah, Amos, Eliyahu Navi, Elisha, the prophet, and so on. King David was a prophet, Solomon was a prophet, Obadiah. Okay, great. But the same Gemara says something very interesting. It says, we didn't have only 48 prophets. We had more prophets, double the amount of prophets, than the amount of people that left Egypt. Meaning in the Torah it specifically says that there were 600,000 men between the age 20 and 60, so there's obviously a lot more than 600,000, but it's referring specifically to that 600,000 number. There were 600,000 men between the ages of 20 and 60 that left Egypt. Throughout history, we had more than double that amount, which means at least 1.2 million, of prophets. Okay, so that's a lot of prophets. So why are only 48 mentioned? And how is this connected to what we're talking about? The Gemara talks about, as Hashem said, if the prophecy that prophet said was relevant for future generations, meaning lanetzach, forever, if what they said was relevant forever, we know their name. Their words were recorded in the Torah. But if their words were only relevant to a specific time that they lived in, then it wasn't recorded. Which means that every one of the 48 prophets and every one of the 7 other prophets, the female prophets, that's recorded in the Torah, in the Tanakh, is relevant from then until forever. And that's how we know that when Hashem mentions this particular verse in the book of Job, and he says, I will reward the tzaddik forever for his descendants, just like I rewarded Rachel, the wife of Yaakov, for being modest. I gave her King Saul as one of her descendants. And just like I rewarded King Saul for being modest, I gave his descendant, I gave Esther from Megillat Esther. She was his descendant. So he was rewarded not just with money, not just with power, but even their descendants were great. So the righteous will get rewarded forever in this world and in the next world. But if those righteous turn into wicked, and they use the reward and become prideful and arrogant and do things that are against my Torah, I will take them down and embarrass them until they do tshuva. If it's relevant to them, and we just learned here that everything that the prophets say is relevant forever, then obviously it's relevant for us today. So during these 49 days, we have to make sure that we do everything we possibly can to get closer to Hashem. Whatever we're doing, try a little harder. Whatever we're thinking, make sure it's a little more focused. Because right now is our chance to really elevate ourselves. Because we have a Torah, it's just a few weeks away. We don't get to Torah 3-4 times a year. We get Torah once. We have a chance to really, really work ourselves and try as hard as possible. And it's not just about the exterior. It's not just about growing a beard or not getting a haircut. It's not just about that. It's about the Torah that we're going to learn, the mitzvot that we're going to do. That's what it's about. The beard and the hair and all that stuff, that's great. It's great. It's nice. Do it. Don't do it. That's not the point of why we even do the external stuff. Is not necessarily to because we want to look ugly. It's because we want to show ourselves and those people that we care about around us how little we care about materialism. If I'm not grooming myself like I usually do, then the world sees, wow, what's wrong with this guy? And when they ask me, oh, why aren't you grooming yourself? I tell them, no, right now I'm trying to get closer to Hashem. I don't have time to groom myself because I'm so focused on Hashem during these 49 days, I don't have time to fix myself.
That's how focused I am. And that's what we're trying to do. It's not just about growing a beard. It's not just about not getting a haircut. It's about focusing on Hashem. So yes, I know everyone works, everyone has a life, everyone has kids and this and that, everything, responsibilities. But everyone also has 24 hours in a day. There's no way that you're consuming 24 hours a day with just work. There has to be some other time during the day. There's an hour, there's 2 hours, there's 3 hours in a day that has to be somewhere that you can gather from a few places that you can learn Torah. Has to be. Maybe it's not 3 hours in a row, but it's 15 minutes here, half hour there, an hour there. Take those few things together and learn, even if it's 15 minutes at a time. This is the time to take that chance. Because if you get to Mount Sinai prepared, the gates of heaven open, and you get what we got back then. If not, you miss out on a big opportunity. So Be'ezrat Hashem, we're going to use this opportunity to really get closer to Hashem. Unless you guys have any more questions, I can give you guys some more stories if you're still up for it. But otherwise, I think that's the biggest thing that we can learn today. Anything come up? Any questions? Any ideas? Anything? No. Okay. Be'ezrat Hashem, we'll have some more people next week. Try to get some more people. This is the job that we have to do also. Really important. Yeah. Right now, again, like we talked about before, our key is to bring other people closer to Hashem. One of the ways we can bring people closer to Hashem is to learn Torah. So during these next few days, let's already start working on trying to bring some more people to the shiur, give them CDs. If they don't want to come to the shiur, tell me about them, we'll give them CDs. If they don't want the CDs, then bring them to the shiur, whatever. Just get them closer to Torah. And start working on it now so we can get this, this place packed, and if it gets to a point we can do it even a few times a week. Just to learn Torah, because again, this is a big opportunity for all of us to do mitzvot. The reward that we get for Zikui Rabim, meaning for making other people do mitzvot, is even bigger than the mitzvot that we do ourselves. So if you can get someone else to keep Shabbat, it's more significant than you keeping Shabbat. Obviously, you have to keep Shabbat as a prerequisite. But the point is that right now, to get them to learn to come to the Shiur Torah is more than double the reward. It's more than just you coming here and learning Torah. So if you could focus, try to figure out a way to get a few people to come, get a few people to listen to some CDs, like Shiur Torah, maybe the link that I send you guys with the shiur, anything. Get people into Torah during this time. This is a time where we could purify ourselves and get ready for a big celebration. If we miss out on an opportunity like this, it makes it very, very difficult to get that same chance without waiting for another year. So Be'ezrat Hashem, we'll get closer and closer to Hashem. We'll have a bigger shiur next week. And wish you guys all the success in the world.